right, good evening, everybody. We're going to get things started. Welcome to all of our guest students and families in the audience. Looking forward to hearing all about all the school presentations coming up. The purpose of this meeting is to conduct the business of the Gettysburg Area School District. Board of Directors meetings and committee meetings are open to the public but are not public meetings. All school district residents who wish to make public comment should sign in prior to the start of the meeting and request to speak during citizens' participation. School district residents wishing to speak to the board shall do so only during the citizen participation section of the meeting. Public comment is welcome and all issues will be referred to the appropriate board committee or administrator. Comments will be summarized in the official board minutes, which will be available by contacting the business office. Please take a moment to silence your cell phones and other electronic devices. And everyone is present in the board except for Tim Sigmund, who's excused this evening. Please rise for a moment for the Pledge of Allegiance. That's what we're doing. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, starting with our notices and communications, are there any board members who have comments or questions on 3.1, cash activity summary, 3.2, capital projects fund report, 3.3, year-end projections report, 3.4, food service report? Dave, go ahead.
On the year-end projection, did you get my email, Belinda, today?
Yes. Which one are you referring to? The revenue projection for March?
For March. If that number's already in?
Well, we haven't received everything in, but to date, we've, like, for March numbers, we have received $3 million, and we've expensed $7.5 million for March.
Okay, it's from expense, but okay. So 7.5. So with the $3 million coming in, and we had projected of only 7.4 coming in for the remainder of the months from March, April, May, and June. Do you think with that amount coming in, it might be a projection that you're going to exceed that?
We are anticipated to exceed revenue of about currently $870,000, but our expenses are currently projected to be a negative of $1.1 million.
Okay. Okay.
For March.
For March.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But the revenue on the remaining months from March, April, May, and June, do you generally keep the same cash flow stream coming through?
Typically, yes. Mm-hmm.
So then basically the projection for months remaining would be more in the tune of 12 million instead of 7?
And I would not say that. So typically we have 0.25% or quarter of revenue yet to be attained, and it won't be $12 million. I can assure that.
Okay. 10?
No, I mean, we'll need to take a look at March projections on the Forecast 5, which we did for the board meeting this evening through February. But we are projected year-end for local revenue to be $52.6 million, and our budget is $52.5 million.
Yeah, that's why I was saying if you have $3 million in March, and that's about 40% of the $7 million projection for the remaining 4 months.
But it's timing of those deposits.
Right.
It may not always be, like, it may have been received in February or April or May the previous year. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Just wondering if we're going to find that we're over that.
We're going to be slightly over, but
Okay.
we're not going to be over enough to address the deficit that we have due to special education.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on 3.1 to 3.4? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to our school presentations. We're kicking things off with James Geddes Elementary and Mr. Wells and team. Yes, I love that. I saw a cheer already. We're very excited. Welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here tonight. In the past, I've presented on various things happening at James Geddes, academics or otherwise. And tonight, I think it's my pleasure to bring with one of our staff members. I think we have a tremendous staff at James Geddes, down to every single teacher and staff member there. Tonight, it's a pleasure to have Mrs. Flickinger, our 4th grade teacher, one of our fourth grade teachers, and she's brought some special guests to really share with you in more detail some of the things we've talked about in the past. But I want you to hear from the students themselves and Mrs. Flickinger. So, Mrs. Flickinger?
Hello, everybody. Welcome, and thank you for having us. So we have a lot of spring initiatives that we've done, so we welcome some of our students to share about those, especially many of our initiatives are student-driven, of course, so they would like to speak about that. First, I have Sarah Posner stepping up. So she has a little speech to read about Dogtown.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah. Ready? Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah. I wanted to tell you about the One School, One Book event we had at James Geddes Elementary. For 8 weeks, everyone in our school read the same book. It is called Dogtown. We read it at home with our families and at school with our teachers and classroom buddies. It was so much fun to talk about the same story. We did so many cool things while we read. Each week, we answered trivia questions about the book. To see what we remembered on Fridays, a student from each classroom who got the trivia question correct got to go to the library to enjoy hot chocolate and to read. For each Reader's Cafe, there were special guests. People from our school and community came to read and talk with us. Some of them even brought their dogs to visit. Because the book was about shelter animals, we wanted to help. We brought in toys and food for the SPCA. It felt good to help the pets in our community. Our reading project was a big celebration. We learned that reading brings people together. We had a lot of fun with this book.
Say who you are. You just want to lift it like that to where you need it.
My name is Ellie. At the beginning of the year, fourth grade completely tore out the overgrown garden with the help of the grounds crew and parents. We planted flower bulbs to bloom in the spring, which did, and now we just finished planting strawberries, spinach, lettuce, broccoli, and cauliflower, carrots, and snap peas in raised beds made for us by ACTI students that will be harvested starting by the end of the school year or early summer by our garden club. Parents, students, high school environmental club members. We also planted pumpkins that will be ready for us next fall. Each month in science, all fourth grade students write garden updates. One writing is added to our school's newsletter. My writing was chosen for March. The March Garden Update. Hello, families. This month we are back in the garden. We have been watching the daffodils come up, cleaning out the weeds, and planting. Mrs. Black from the Master Gardeners came over to our school and did winter sowing at the end of February. We had to have jugs, so we would pick out a plant and plant it in the jugs. We put them outside to get rain and sun. A lot of people wanted to plant blanket flowers. I wanted to pick them because they had a lot of colors and they were really pretty. Later on, we will take them out and plant them in the ground. Our school decided to put a rain gauge outside to collect all the rain, and when we bring it in, we measure it. Last week, we planted some carrots and some snap peas in the raised beds. Some of my classmates took the lettuce and spinach from our winter sowing milk jugs and transplanted them into the raised beds. The garden has gotten a lot of weeds, so we had to do a lot of weeding. This is what we've been doing in the garden. We can't wait to see what comes up next. Sincerely yours, Ellie.
My name is Rowan, and James Geddes Elementary just ended our 4th annual Math Madness competition. This initiative serves as a key fundraiser for our PTO and community building event that encourages students to master their math facts. The competition featured an exciting bracket-style tournament with each classroom representing a college team. We are thrilled to share that our school not only met but exceeded our fundraising goal of $4,000, raising a total of $5,713.21. As a reward, we traveled to Gettysburg College to enjoy a fun and spirited staff versus students basketball game. During our visit, we proudly announced the math tournament winners. Congratulations to Miss Becker's kindergarten class. Our runner-up was Miss Arns' third grade class. We also celebrated academic achievements, recognizing the classrooms with the highest growth in math. Fact scores, Mrs. Roy's kindergarten and Miss Peterman/Miss Cooper's fourth grade. Because we surpassed our fundraising goal, we added an extra dose of fun to our assembly. 2 teachers were pied. A big thank you to Mr. Cole and Miss Becker for being such great sports.
Presentation, but I said how proud I am of these students and our staff. Boys and girls did a wonderful job. Thank you so much for sharing with the board tonight. We are so excited to have the board. I know you're coming out for a tour, or some of you are, next week, and we really want to show you the building, the classrooms, the students, and give you a tour and talk more about James Gettys as we're doing that. So we welcome you out next week, and we thank you for having us here tonight.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Mrs. Flickinger, and the students, Sarah, Ellie, and Rowan, for sharing all of those things. I love that you're fundraising for the SBCA. That sounds awesome. And the school garden, I can't wait to see it. I think it's going to be beautiful, but also very useful with all those fruits and vegetables in there. And man, Math Madness sounds like a lot of fun, especially going and playing basketball after doing all of that math at the college. I'm glad that you were able to do those things and share them with us. Donna, Mrs. Harrison would like to share something.
I just wanted to say to Sarah, Ellie, and Sarah, Ellie, and Rowan, you guys have a lot of nerve to get up here in front of a whole room of adults and speak, and you did an excellent job. But I'm very proud of all the work you do at James Gettys. I'm especially excited about that courtyard. That's been a long time coming, and thank you for taking care of that. Well done.
Thank you.
Mr. Wells, is it true that kids get their smarts and good looks from their grandparents? Yes.
I've heard that's true.
Thank you to our James Gettys Elementary team, and we're going to move on to our middle school presentation. So welcoming Mrs. K. Wood and whomever Mrs. K. Wood has brought with her. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. I'm Christy Kaywood, I'm the principal, and I have with me
Mr. Lobb, the assistant principal.
Okay. And we just wanted to share a little bit about how we celebrate and practice the Warrior Way at the middle school. One of the first things is being here. 80% is just showing up. That's how successful you can be. So some of the things we do, we give a positive attendance award each quarter at our quarterly awards assembly, and basically, if you have only 0 to 1 unexcused absence, so maybe one day you woke up late to school, that's okay. We'll give you 1 freebie. But we partnered with Mr. G's Ice Cream, and we give out certificates for all the kids who were able to do that for the quarter. So that has been very positive this year as one of our initiatives. For our PBIS quarterly reward for each team, we do have an attendance goal then as well, so you have to have positive attendance in order to participate in that quarterly reward. And we do have random just be here drawings where I'll just ask my secretaries, pick 3 random kids, 1 from each grade, and then they get Mr. G's coupons for the day. So it's been really nice to partner with them and promote positive attendance at the middle school. And there we go. Another part is being involved. A lot of times, as parents, you see your kids and they're always on their computer and they're doing all this work on their computer. But that's not the whole story when it comes to life at the middle school. There are so many hands-on activities that these kids are involved in. So whether it's, experiments in the classroom, they might be on a computer, but they're doing something really cool, like designing a Lego guy and then printing him out on a 3D printer and really and that's 6th grade. So just doing some really cool activities and hands-on things. We had a fall play, we had our spring musical a few weeks ago. So if you got to see any of those things, our kids are very much involved in so many different activities.
Hi, good evening. Hope I speak half as well as those elementary students did. So our next characteristic of the Warrior Way is to be committed. Being committed at GAMS means caring about your education. We celebrate our students' accomplishments through quarterly awards assemblies where we give out certificates to students who have made the honor roll and the distinguished honor roll. We had the Gettysburg College men's basketball team come in and hold a program for our 8th graders called In It to Win It, and it's focused on working hard and striving for your goals. So the kids really enjoyed that. We have after-school tutoring program every Tuesday and Thursday for any student who wants to spend some extra time at the building and get some more work completed, and we provide transportation for that, so that's an awesome program. We have teachers there available. And I go and check it out every once in a while, and it's great. The kids are helping each other, helping each other get through their work. So that's a great program. And we also have had incentive days for students who had 0 missing assignments during the 1st and 3rd quarters. And our last aspect of the Warrior Way is be kind. Okay, during those quarterly awards assemblies, we also have Warrior Way awards winners and students of the term. These are chosen by their teachers and their own classmates with a focus on being kind to others and doing the right thing. 6th and 7th grade students participated in Warrior Way character lessons. These were focused on things like mindset, respect, empathy, and of course kindness. And our 8th graders got back to doing service learning projects this year, which connect those students with the community. And we have some special guests here to tell us some more about that.
Yeah.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm Oliver Grieve, an 8th grader at the Gettysburg Area Middle School. For service learning, I had the opportunity to walk to Lincoln from the middle school to read to the 1st graders. From the first time we met with them, we were paired with a partner who we stayed with for every gathering. Each time, the 1st graders selected a book for us to read together, and we were given different tasks such as worksheets to complete with them. I personally really enjoyed getting to know my partner and found it beneficial to do something other than traditional classwork during the school day. I remember working with 3rd grade buddies when I was in kindergarten and looked forward to it every time. I believe that the 1st graders enjoyed it just as much as I did. My only complaint is that we didn't get to do it more often. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Zach.
I'm Jack. For our service learning project, we chose to help the 6th graders learn more about the Warrior Way, and in the process, learn how to be a leader in our school. This benefited us and the younger students. For the 6th graders, we taught them what it meant to be a warrior. Our lessons focused on concepts like integrity, showing respect, making good decisions, feeling empathy, and having a positive attitude.
For us, teaching these younger students taught us how to lead the classroom, be responsible for ourselves and others, and how to communicate with others in our team.
For each lesson, we had to be a role model for the younger students and be a leader throughout the lesson. If we were focused and attentive, the students would, for the most part, follow our lead. Sometimes we would have to ask a student to pay attention. This helped us learn how to confront people who are doing the wrong thing, even though it can be difficult. We now have more confidence and can call out our friends or classmates when they aren't doing the right thing.
The lesson plan will often consist of a slideshow, the activity for the day, and any papers we had to hand out. We had to make sure that we were constantly prepared and knew what we were doing. If we forgot something or made a mistake, we have to own up and admit we weren't prepared, thus showing responsibility.
We also had to communicate with each other to make sure we knew what we were doing and who was teaching what part.
We also had to answer any questions that the students had, and on the flip side of that, we had to get the students to answer questions we might ask.
Overall, the whole experience is a great learning opportunity and taught us how to be responsible role models and live the warrior way. I hope these lessons will continue and help teach both the younger and the older students how to live the warrior way. Thanks for your time.
So again, the eighth grade service learning projects are something we've brought back this year after a long hiatus away. But there are other things that really connect us to the community as well. They were doing some things with Meals on Wheels, Adams County Library, Strawberry Hill, America 250 we have a group of students researching different soldiers and writing some narratives that will be on display in the National Cemetery this summer, and lots of different ideas and different things we were doing. They painted a mural in our building just about, being the nice kid at school. So we were really proud of them, and this is something we are looking forward to continuing. So thank you.
Great. Thank you so much to Mrs. Kaywood and Mr. Loeb and the students who came in. I'll say a couple things, and I know other people want to. Oliver, I also had a third grade reading buddy when I was in school, and when you were talking about it before you mentioned that, it made me think of that, and I love that you had so much fun with that, going back down to the elementary school as a middle schooler. Hopefully other students next year will continue that and like to do that just the same way. I'm sure your first grade buddy was loving that connection too. Zach and Jack, it sounds like you're ready to be teachers, right? You just got training, on the ground training, and all the things you're saying, I'm sitting there nodding and going, yes, good lessons, right? So that's wonderful. And, in another couple years, if you want to enter that field in some way, keep doing those things and providing that support to your peers. Thanks for sharing it. Al?
Yep. Thank you, President Alice. Just a quick remark. In addition to what was mentioned here, I just want to commend the middle school for the great job that you all do, and I'm not sure of all the details with this, but the kids that are coming from 3 elementary schools into 6th grade as one, I would just say what I've noticed from my grandson and a lot of his friends and so on, just how well they acclimate, and I know that doesn't happen by accident. So the counselors, the pupil personnel people, the leaders there, the teachers, you all do a great job in helping them make that transition, and I just want to say thank you for your efforts.
And I just want to say to the 3 gentlemen, congratulations, you also did a great job. But to the middle school, it's so exciting to see that community project, that connection has come back. That is so important in our community. And the fact that you're taking advantage of an elementary building right across the street is awesome. So thank you.
Great, thank you so much from the middle school team. Our last school presentation of the evening is the high school. So Mr. Lusk is providing that update.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Mrs. Grossman here with me as well. I'm going to guide you through a set of slides as soon as... Oh, I can click.
You have to move it up to the thing.
Where are we at?
Yep.
We're on it. So we considered, as much as we have happening at the high school, some specific program updates, but it's hard to pick and choose which program to highlight. So last week, we kind of pulled Plan B and said, we gave an all call to our staff and said, report to us on the numbers. By numbers, what's happening, mostly like right now. So a lot of what you're going to see is a sampling. It's truly a sampling. It's not meant to be a comprehensive report because, again, it's difficult to share it all. So this is truly a sampling, and for those that get left out of that sampling, I'm sorry. Pay attention to social media, pay attention to newsletters, pay attention to the conversations that flow through the community about all the amazing things that happen at the high school. This is literally just a sampling by the numbers, and intentionally, I'm going to try to zoom through it because there are over 30 slides. So we'll start here. Right now, this is current enrollment this month, first of the month. We're in April still, I'm pretty sure, 954 students. 57 cyber students on top of those 954 in the building. We did lose 23 early graduates back in January. That's where things stand right now. If you didn't see it on social media, something worth celebrating, we had 3 National Merit Scholarship finalists. That is exceptional. Not every year do we have any. So having 3 in 1 year is just phenomenal. If you didn't see it, there you have it. At the very top of the top in terms of exceptional scholarship in the country. You should know that we have 4 students that will begin the process of potentially becoming a semifinalist or maybe even a finalist next year. So we have 4 students at the beginning of that process looking into next year. So this is something new for the first time ever at Gettysburg Area High School. We had a mock trial team. The team was pretty successful. Even in their first year, they had 4 trials and 2 wins, but a great experience for those students in a court-like atmosphere. So that's exciting. And again, just the beginning of that teamwork. We have a speech and debate team that is not new. We have 17 competitors from the school, 7 semifinalists at the state level. We had 2 fourth-place winners, and if you didn't know, we had a state champion debater, Claire Journey. I have to shout her out by name because being a state champion is being a state champion. So that's incredible. Update on speech and debate. New last year, we call our National English Honor Society the LC Singmaster Society, and one of their chapter focuses is peer writing assistance. And any student can put in to schedule an appointment with our team of Honor Society students, and they have served 111 at this point. Current update. One-on-one appointments, they coach them through, as it says, scholarship essays, lab reports, ACTI applications, your everyday research essays. They're there to help, and they've done that all year long and will continue until the finish line. They also work with staff members for Writing Center, pop-up Writing Center workshops, doing much of the same, and they've had 43 students attend those pop-up workshops. So good work there. Reading is not the most favorite thing for any person, let alone a high school learner, and especially if you're not good at it. We have reading classes at the high school that are designed to provide interventions for those who need it, and a celebration of that success. 160 books read independently by struggling readers in that intervention class this year. So 18 would be the average number of books read independently per student in reading strategies course this year. So for a struggling reader to, on average, tackle 18 books on their own, we're celebrating. We have a homework hub. We used to call it tutoring. It's not just tutoring. It's for all types of things. There is tutoring that happens in the homework hub, but sometimes it's just time and space to do homework. We've had 179 students participate in that over the course of the year. That happens on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We're fortunate to be in a place where we provide transportation home on Tuesdays and Thursdays. That's a solid investment by the district. We staff that with, again, a couple professionals, but also students, like those from the LC Singmaster Society, and it's helpful for a lot of students. Just thinking about resources and what happens in a place like the high school library. We have books. Students still read books. There's also high usage in terms of some of the databases that we buy into. Again, thinking about resource allocation. So if you look at the number of searches for students this is your general high school database, EBSCO, and it's deep. We partner with Tower Library to save thousands of dollars to offer that to our students. That's not new. What is new is JSTOR. That's a college level database, and we purchased that starting in January of this year, mostly to support our AP seminar students who do a whole lot of that and need the most credible resources that are peer reviewed and such to go to. So that's been a valued resource for that class specifically, but all students in high school. 70 students actively involved in math club. 47 students in the National Math Honor Society. Thanks, Mr. Godak, for that update. This is exciting when it comes to student travel. This is relatively recent. The students in the American Exchange Project found out where they are going this summer. So 11 of our students are going to be traveling all over the country. There's a list of states that they will travel to, and then we will have 12 students from around the country visiting our community, staying with families in our community, and it's an exchange. As you can see, it costs $0 for our students. It's an incredible experience just to get them out and about and traveling and exchanging in our great country. We have 7 students traveling this summer through the First Stamp organization. That's an organization that used to target sophomore females for worldwide travel. This year, for the first year ever, they've decided, you know what, we'd also like to encourage male students to travel as well, and we are going to fund that fully. So we have 7 students from our high school this summer who will travel abroad to Europe, fully funded through the First Stamp organization, which is incredible. We also had students traveling through our school. Both the Spanish class and French class traveled, as it says, March into April, just using their skills, their language skills in an authentic setting, learning all kinds of incredible things. So we had 23 students travel on the Spain trip. They also ventured into Morocco, which I hear was an adventure that included camels. And we had 9 students on our French trip, traveling from all places, from Paris to Normandy, again, practicing their French skills and immersing themselves in French culture. Just experiences that are incredibly valued for our students, especially as they come back to the building and share. JROTC, sometime we'll invite them to provide a specific update to you. They continue to do incredible work. It's not a pipeline to the military. It's a leadership class, a team building class, really aimed at bettering our citizenship. They, for the first time, again by the numbers, hosted a Raider Challenge event where 5 teams came to our school back in October. They're going to host another one in May. They have a brand new obstacle course that they've been working on collaboratively with building trades and some other students. That's out back. It's also important to note that they involve themselves in service around the community, 200 combined hours at the Gettysburg National Military Park just recently. Ruth's Harvest, a great community resource, making sure that students who need to be fed are fed, and then we have groups that are contributing to that effort, helping Mr. Waybrandt get food out to those who need it most. So JROTC, golf, girls soccer, boys soccer, football, student council, Key Club, FFA, and wrestling all contributed to the Ruth Harvest effort this year, which is awesome. We had 2 students make All-State in terms of music ensembles. Maria Royer is a state level alto 2, and Logan Schwartz, state level on the French horn. Incredible. In the career and technical education realm, FBLA has been busy. They were just at States in Hershey. They had 43 students participate in that, and 1 student qualified for nationals. Those students in FBLA or in the business realm are working on all types of things. Microsoft Office certifications. We have 20 students this year that earned Microsoft Office credentials, and 12 students are working on their bookkeeping skills through QuickBooks, so picking up industry certifications and doing their thing in the business world. In agriculture, we had 27 students compete at different area level events. 3 of those students went on to regionals in public speaking events, and 21 students, as I said, went to leadership conferences this year. They're picking up OSHA certs, as it says. They're working on Dairy Leaders of Tomorrow certifications and more. I think we have 4 students who will be taking end-of-year NOCD exams for seniors this week and next week in agriculture. In the area of engineering and communications, our TSA group just went to states, which we'll get to in a second. That starts at the regional level. 28 students competed at the regional level. We had several first-place finishes: biotechnology, forensic science, music production, and materials processing. And then at the state level, we had a first-place finish in robotics. So Noah Puckett and Ryan Rudisil should be commended. And I had to ask the teachers, wait, they finished first at states, but they didn't at regionals. Correct. They lost to the defending champions at regionals, but at states, they won. So 2 more state champions, Noah and Ryan, congrats to them. We had 11 students, different students, earn top 10 finishes at the state level, so that's commendable. Again, in engineering and communications, they're working on OSHA certs, Snap-on multimedia certifications. We have 12 students taking the NOCD this week and next in engineering, and 9 in communications, so great work there. We're getting there. They're out and about in the community. 11 of them in communications participated in Broadcast Now. I believe Mrs. Grossman went along to that. She said it was an amazing experience. And 6 attended the PA Broadcasters Banquet with a Hall of Fame assortment of inductees. And again, getting out into the real world in areas that fit their passions and strengths. FCCLA, we had 22 members this year. This explains a little bit of the history of that club, which is relatively new. And 3 members attended a star event recently at the State Leadership Conference and earned a silver medal and a spot on the PA national team for this year, which is awesome. FCCLA as well. Just a quick snippet on the athletic front, just because they finished up their seasons not too long ago, and it's worth sharing that, yes, we're still doing sports. So as we wrapped up the winter season, and now we're in the thick of spring, looking back a little bit, 34 student athletes doing their thing in the pool. 15 swimmers qualified for mid-Penns, 8 swimmers qualified for the District 3 championship, and 3 will swim at the college level, which is outstanding. On the wrestling front, I mean, it's worth noting that we just won our 3rd District 3 team title in a row, 5th since 2020. We sent 8 boys to states and 3 girls to states. That's a number that we've never seen before. We have several medalists at the bottom, 5 to be exact, from that crew. So it's just more of the same awesomeness in regard to that. Rounding it out here, signing day. So we do have 22 at this point, seniors who plan to continue competing athletically at the collegiate level, and signing day is on May 27th in the morning. If you care to join at Warrior Stadium, we look forward to that. Counseling Center, it's just busy. ASVAB testing, PSAT testing. We had a full day just last week or the week before. 101 students took the SATs. Looking way back, we took our entire sophomore class to Gettysburg College for a career fair. Just this past Friday, our entire junior class participated in an incredible event through Junior Achievement. We had 35 volunteers from the community come in and help our staff in the JA team put together a full day of how to interview well, how to create a personal budget, everything that matters in real life financially for these students. It was an incredible day, well organized. Kids responded really well. I'll send you some more on that, school board, because it's something that you need to see more of. It was a great day, but it took a whole lot of work from our team. 193 students took college and high school courses this year, also worth noting. 4,000 visits to the counseling center this year. Worth noting. We had over 60 new students. It takes a team of Warrior ambassadors and staff members to make sure that they fit in well. 109 students applied to college through the Common App. 101 additional requests for transcripts for our seniors from colleges. So they're working on the next step. We have folks coming in to do career talks, and we're thankful that community members want to come in and speak to our students. 8 local businesses came in and spoke to our hack class, Hack Introduction to Business course. We have 3 local health professionals speaking about their careers in the health fields, and we've had 6 guest speakers of different types, a broad spectrum of representatives from the local community talking to students about work. So we continue to expand our offerings there. Looking ahead at May, we do advanced placement courses to the tune of 194 students enrolled in AP courses, 108 students taking multiple AP exams, totaling in 377 exams to be taken in May. So that's coming soon. 17 different courses that we offer at the high school equals a lot of exams. We have freshmen involved in that, 20 of them to be exact. So it's freshmen through seniors, and that looks like this comparatively. 194 students, 377 exams. In the past 5 years, we've never had that many exams offered in the school. So a strong program that continues to be, even stronger with each passing year, it seems. We have 20 students coming up at the end of the month that are going to take a test for the PA Seal of Biliteracy. So they need to prove their proficiency through reading, writing, listening, and speaking on a test, and they also need to pass the Keystone exam in literature with a score of proficient to prove that they are biliterate. And we have 20 students who are going to test their skills at the end of the month in German, French, but mostly Spanish. And we're about to get to the end of the year Keystone exams. We have 435 exams to facilitate on May 19 and 20 in those areas. It takes a whole lot of effort and teamwork to make sure that that gets done and done well, because it's important for those end of course exams and those students taking those tests. And for us as a school, we got there. That is truly just a sample. It's a busy world, but it's important to kind of take it all in sometimes and recognize that it's a lot. I had the numbers of how many staff members it takes. I didn't present them because that's just 33 slides instead of 32. But I can tell you it takes an incredible team to do just that, because, again, that's just a recent update, and it's really just a sample. So thanks for bearing with me. Lots of numbers there. That was the point. If you have any questions on that, some other time probably. But thanks for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Lusk and Mrs. Grossman. Yeah, I think it's really neat to see all those things. I feel like it was a whole year in really rapid review, which just demonstrates all of the great things happening there. A big congratulations to any students who are involved in those things and all the people who are impacted by it. And to your team point, what a wonderful group of teachers and administrators kind of leading the charge there, right? It's great to have all those opportunities for our students. I can't pick one thing to comment on. I was having these moments of going, yeah, I have some things I'm gonna.
And some of that's all year long. Some of those things.
Some of them are more
counseling
recent.
center visits.
Yeah.
Most of it's like the last month or two.
I was going to say, busy couple of months over there at the high school for sure. Thank you for your work with that team. Okay, at this point, we're going to be moving on to important but maybe slightly less exciting things. Thank you to the families and students who came to present tonight and hear all about the wonderful things happening in our schools. Unless you would like to stay for the budget presentation, you're more than welcome to head out for your evening. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to our 3.8, the budget update. Belinda, take it away.
Thank you. Good evening. So we're going to go through a quick timeline update for the budget. So obviously you'll see this evening we are on for adoption is the approval of the proposed final. This action requires a minimum of 30 days to be on display. I like to state this is not the final budget. This is a process to meet Act 1 timeline. So just wanted to reiterate that. And then, of course, followed by that, we'll have our May 4th public hearing, a board meeting, and then May 18th, the budget review before we actually have some final things to address with the final budget approval. So as presented at the last meeting, why the budget changed in of itself. This is a reiteration of the previous meeting of exactly 2 social workers to remove the family navigators. What is the main driving force of this budget is the special education comprehensive plan and the needs and the changes of special education simply because of more services that the district is providing rather than the LIU. In areas of autistic support, life skills, learning support. They're all required, all part of the plan. And our goal this year in the budget is to have an additional special education supervisor. We currently have 1. Our goal is to have 1 elementary and 1 secondary, so that's why that is a part of the plan. And then, of course, our technology department, a classified position, has been requested during the process simply because to help overall the infrastructure with the PIMS, help desk, and building supports. Again, the budgeting addresses the contractual increases of the approved contract, which includes the salary benefits, PSERS, service contracts, transportation increases, hardware, software, and some cameras. And this budget also represents the 3rd year of the ACTI's plan for their loan documentations and so forth to move forward with their proposed plans. And then, of course, the budget is the cost of inflation in of itself. So last meeting, I shared with you where we currently stand, and tonight I'm indicating that we did have some additional expenses changed to the budget. As I mentioned before, it's a continual change to the budget up to the very final. So what changed? Well, we received our first quote back from our property, casualty, and vehicle insurance package. Again, we're facing a continuous increase, working with the broker to try to get that package down and to have other ratings, simply because we've experienced quite a demand in our insurance, simply because a few years ago we had a roof replacement captured at the high school when the storm came through, blew off the roof. It was quite a claim that we had through insurance, but in that time, the insurance provider indicated that they no longer wanted to service the district, so we had to go with another provider, and we experienced more than 50% claims increase in just 1 year. So over the 3 or 4 year period now, we've continually seen increases. So again, I have already received the rate potential increase, but I'm also working with the broker to try to get that down. Another area that we were just informed is the substitute teacher service. This program, which is contracted service, addresses our substitute service for all the teachers in the district. And we were notified, obviously, in looking at the budget, that we weren't quite hitting the mark on what the budget had compared to what we were expensing. As well as the superintendents got together and increased the rate from 125 to 135. So not only is the demand increased, but the rate is increasing for next year, so we had to open up and add additional costs to the budget. One of the items as additional change, not a lot, but a change is expected with PSBA board docs. I'm not sure if any of the members are aware or know that PSBA's backbone to board docs is no longer being supported. So we are investigating another opportunity, which is called Agenda Manager, and more opportunities with the company. Availability at a less of a cost, but the first year implementation usually is what you need to address. So it's expected that we'll be using, changing from board docs, which is diligent, to Agenda Manager. More to come on that. Obviously, when we do to make the transition, there'll be some board training, staff training, and just how to conduct the meetings moving forward with this new platform. The proposed adoption, again, For this evening, your vote is on display. I have documents and so forth that'll be on public display. It is assuming a max index of 4.2%. Why is that 4.2%? Because it's far better to show a proposed budget at the maximum index, knowing that you can't go any further, knowing that you can always come down from that point. But setting it low and going high usually has more consternation over it to begin with. So your budget this evening, taking action, is assuming that it's a 4.2% index. Now, I will state again, that is not the final budget. So it's not like we're going to set 4.2% index in mills as we move forward. But there's the additional expense change. It was approximately what you see there. It was about $330,000 change, increase in expenditures. Next slide. So with that, you'll see that this summary has changed from the previous postings of the budget. While I like to mention, our beginning fund balance is 4.73. I'm going to jump to the bottom quickly, is to say, by policy, we require a 6% unassigned fund balance, anywhere from minimum of 6 to 8%. Many years ago, we were running at 8%. Within the last 5 years, we've been running at 6%, and we have been spending down the fund balance. So as you can see, the 1% column here, the unreconciled gap without adding any other proposed commitments or unassigned funds or assigned funds, we have a gap of $2.1 million between revenue and expenditures. 3.5% is $1.1 million, and 4.2% is just under $1 million. So as our budget is being prepared, we propose to you use of PSERS, which is a calculation of the PSERS rate that's increased. So we're proposing a $272,590 of the commitment of PSERS, and I'll explain that on the next slide. But again, then obviously the assigned use of capital projects money, we're proposing at this point $948,000 to bring down the gap. Of what we're really truly looking for is $1.2 million if 1%. I'm not quite sure we could get that particular point. We need to address a tax increase. Just to what degree is the question. So at 3.5%, we're looking at $22,239 still yet to find. And at 4.2%, while it indicates a positive $301,601, I'd like to state that the 4.7 mills beginning fund balance is not, if it's projected to the end of the year, it is not at 6%. So therefore, the $601 is actually needing to be added to the fund balance, because fund balance 6% is of expenditures. So as expenditures change, 6% is what's required to remain an unassigned fund balance. So if we were at 4.7, we need to get $5 million. So the $301,000 is the plug to get to the unassigned fund balance as per policy. Next slide. So as I mentioned before, we had a review of the balance sheet. So in the previous slide, I mentioned that we want to use some of the PSERS committed funds. You'll see it circled there. Currently, at the end of the June, we had just a little over $3 million. The goal is to use a fraction of that specifically to address the increase in PSERS rate for next year. Likewise, some of the assigned funds in the capital improvements, that capital reserve assignment is sitting at $1.2 million. In the previous slide, we indicated we probably use or propose to use $948,000 of that to help offset the budget. Next slide. So here's the revenue summary. Most of you that have served on the board, this is very familiar. This is typically, you'll see this format on our website. This represents the summary view of local, state, and federal sources. There's the 2024 actual. the 25-26 budget, which included 1%, which is strictly to ACTI, and then the proposals there are 1%, 3.5%, and 4.2%. So you can see across there, as well as the PSERS committed and the unassigned funds, the assigned funds of capital projects. Next slide. Here's our expenditures. So what I'd like to point out too here in the 24-25 school year, we actually had a decrease in our unassigned fund balance of $229,128. Instead of adding to the fund balance, we had a decrease. Our current snapshot for the budget, when we started planning for 25-26, said that we would use $1.6 million of unassigned fund balance. And we actually have that number listed in the balance sheet, if you'll recall, a few slides before. So what we did when we prepared the budget is we said, this is our demand to use unassigned fund balance, and we set those funds assigned for a specific purpose. In your documents this evening on the board, on the financial report, well, I'd like to point out that the one report that's listed in there that looks similar to this, if you recall, we said that we'd be using $1.6 million of unassigned fund balance. The projection is unfavorable for the end of the year, and as it stands currently, it shows that we would use $1.4 million. So we are sort of on target to utilize all those funds. I don't anticipate receiving less, and those two areas are especially the 300 series and the 500 series, directly relates to special education and other outside services. So I like to mention that simply because the whole budget predicates on we're not going to be able to use unassigned fund balance moving forward. And then, of course, the 26-27 budget, you'll see the salaries and benefits. They're listed. You'll have our purchase of professional services. Typically, that's all LIU services, outside services. 400 is property services. Other purchases of service, charter schools, transportation. Supplies include classroom supplies and any technology related, as well as consumable text and textbooks. Property and equipment is listed there. Our other objects and other financing sources are our debt, principal, interest, our ACTI funding, as well as some contingency for budgetary reserve. So our total expenses are projected next year, with those changes noted a little earlier, of $83.4 million. Next slide. This is just a visual of the revenue in a summary format that I've talked about a little bit before. As you can see, they're relatively consistent, except for the federal revenue, of course. But we are still planning on and hoping that we receive the federal funds. That would obviously be a big change to the budget if it comes out that we would not be receiving federal funds. But again, this is the summary of the revenue. And the next slide shows a little bit more detail. Again, all of this, while it was in the board docs information, this will be presented on the website later this evening. So the public will be able to see all of this information as well. Here is the revenue detail showing the current real estate as proposed there, and all the earned income, the most major categories of local revenue. And there's the state categories, the major categories of state revenue, as you can see, is basic ed, special education, transportation, PSERS share, and Social Security share. And then everything else that falls into state revenue would fall into the line below. And then, of course, there's the federal revenue. That's all Title I, II, III, and IV. There's no other title funds associated with it. So our total revenues are $82.5 million. Next slide. This is just the snapshot of expenditures in a graph format, along with the next slide of a little bit more detail. These 4 slides in a row were shared previously. They've just been updated with the change of the information, is all that is. So you can see the majority of our increases lie in purchase of services, as well as salary and benefits, which we're a service industry for education, so largest number of our budget is for salaries and benefits. And of course, then there's our debt service as well. All of our debt is on wraparound schedules. So, our schedules, amort schedules that are prepared, we know exactly what is coming due for the loans that we have, and nothing is anticipated to drop off anytime soon. While we are anticipating increases for ACTI, once that materializes, we'll be able to update our schedules accordingly. Next slide. One of the questions before, I believe one of the other meetings, is what does the actual tax millage impact to our average parcel, I'm preparing these numbers this evening with the help of Mr. Fordham, but I also like to share that the market assessed value average home is $280,319. These numbers that are presented here are very similar to previous year. The homestead farmstead numbers are not in this number. So this is an estimate, understanding that this is the proposed new tax associated with the average parcel. If it's a 3.5% increase, it's $112,000, not $112,000, $112. And for a 4.2% increase, it would be $135. Now, that would be a year, that's not a month. So, of course, if you divide that by 12, they show the actual increase per month basis to assume either a 3.5 or 4.2%. Once our homestead farmstead numbers are available, the likeliness that our second meeting in May will have those numbers updated, that we can share what the true net value of an increase is in any of those options. Next slide. One of the questions that came up previously, I believe, by Mr. Seitz was how much dollars were necessarily left on the table from not raising taxes in the past. And I believe, if I'm not correct in that, Mr. Seitz, you can correct me if you like. So the next three slides are going to represent what the actual district did versus what occurred. So, for instance, the Act 1 index since 22-23 is the red block. So you can see Act 1 is 4, 4.8, I think 6.2, 4.8, and 4.2. Act 1 index is set by the state. It's certified every year, factors that go into that. This is the state saying that districts, you are permitted to go to the index, not above, you can go below, but you are permitted to raise taxes to the index every year. Now, are boards prepared and wanting to do that every year? No, we haven't as well. We've been pretty good about getting a tax increase necessary to adjust and to balance the budget. This is showing where GASD fell into the tax increase world. So, for example, in 22-23, we had a 4% Act 1. We had 1.38% increase. The following year, we had a 0% tax increase. The third year, 24-25, it really is a 0% increase in terms of actual cost of inflation, because we associated our 1% increase specifically to ACTI. Likewise, for the 25-26 year, for 1% tax increase went to ACTI. So the general operations and increases in the needs of the district was 0% when you're addressing it that way. And while the 26-27 graph there shows 4.2%, our proposed final is 4.2%, but that is, again, not final. This is just a representation of that. And down below, you can see a little bit more detail as to what years there was no tax increase. So it goes past previously before 22-23 year. Next slide. One of the questions came up on one of the things when I came to the district, Dr. Perrin, was, if we just address 1% taxes per year, we would be in a pretty good position. So this slide represents what the previous superintendent, because obviously we have a new superintendent since then, and we haven't set those parameters just yet in place, but the previous superintendent said if we just do Act 1, so this slide represents if we did what it would look like for just 1% increase for those years, assuming that the years for ACTI we would do 2%, simply because 1% would have been for operations and 1% would have been for ACTI. Since 1819, just the difference between Act 1 and that 1% was $6.2 million left off the table. So again, you can easily, provide numbers, but the one that is really foretelling is the very next slide. So if we compare just since 22-23, I'm not going back in the past years, I'm only preparing since 22-23. If the Act 1 index compared to cumulative, compared to what we've left on the table, is $22.1 million. Now, there is no possible way that we can ever recoup those dollars. Those dollars are way gone. We deal with Act 1 index. We cannot increase taxes above Act 1. The only possible way is, and a district has been successful in the state, is when they were going through a renovation project that they needed additional mills on top of what they could actually do for Act 1. That causes voter referendum. You have to go to the voters to increase a tax increase over the index. And that is not something warmly received. You have to have a set community endorsement to have that type of action to be performed. So this is not a result of the previous board, what they did or didn't do. This is going back to, this has been a pretty good history here. We've been very cognizant of the taxpayers and what the taxpayers are capable of. We've listened and heard over the years about increasing taxes, but this is just a representation. The district was permitted by the school board to raise to the index. And so when we actually calculated the numbers out, what did that index look for us? If I'm not saying this is going back and if a woulda, coulda, woulda type of situation, if going back and we could have estimated that we would have had $22 million, that could have funded our next project at James Getty's and Lincoln. We wouldn't have had to borrow money if we would have been raising to what the state says that we could have done. So that is that type of situation that, things you think about after the fact, but it's just, here's, where we are at, and just to provide you the numbers as to what occurred. Next slide. So where do we go from here? So we prepared a budget for you, changes to the budget. And so we have some options, and it basically evolves around the capital improvement projects plan. Historically, we presented a budget that has $1 million set aside for capital projects, which is the 5-year capital plan. Our history has been we take the 5-year average of that capital projects plan, and that's what we put in the general fund budget, is what our history. Now, that has been historically an area to impose cuts over the time period, like where you drop the plan, we determine what is truly needed, in speaking to Mrs. Pratt's, is this a need or a want? So we examine this capital improvement plan every year. It gets examined, even though you approve a 5-year plan. Every year it's looked at. So the capital improvement plan, while we have a budget of $1 million, the plan itself calls for $660,822 for 26-27. So we have approximately $400,000 we can change the budget if we want to stick with everything in the plan for 26-27 school year. So that's an option. We also have to defer future projects, reducing the following items, which would reduce the demand to just underneath $500,000. Those 4 areas are listed there. It would be the LED signs at admin, the LED signs at the high school, the terrazzo flooring, and then the stadium grill and hood at the stadium's concessions. Those were items that were brought up through our facility planning meetings, as well as our first meetings of the month since our new structure. But those are areas that we could probably defer. Not saying that they're not important, but we could probably defer them another year and change it to the second, third, or fourth year. But the point here is we can still work around with this capital improvement plan. One, maybe not use all of the capital projects money of, what we had set aside of 1.2 million, because once that money is used, it is gone. There's no replenishing that money. It's used to address these areas. So while we prepared slides for the budget of using 948, 222, this is an area, again, that can be addressed, can be changed, can be reduced, to try to minimize that tax increase as we come to the final. Options 202, the next slide, is, what's okay? Options 202. We talked a little bit about our policy has been 6 to 8% fund balance retained in unassignment. There's obviously the board's opportunity if they ever want to change policy to reduce something other than 6%. I'm not necessarily recommending that. I'm saying this is an option for the board to consider. I'm not recommending that simply because when you start taking to the point that you have no unassigned fund balance to use, when it comes time for borrowing, and there will be a time that we borrow, Standard & Poor's, Moody's will look at your available assets, will look at your financial stability and say, well, this is the rate that you may or may apply for. And you may end up getting downgraded in your rating simply because you proactively went after that unassigned fund balance. So it comes with ramifications once you start changing or not having a fund balance policy in place. So while it's an option for the board, it would need to go through its necessary processes of reviewing policy, having discussions, having it available. It is an option. Not necessarily saying this is one that I want to recommend simply because it changes the future fiscal responsibility and or the makeup of the district. Again, there are tax options. Our proposed final, which is on for later adoption, is 4.2. We don't need to go to 4.2 if we're addressing capital projects and or changing some of the assigned funds. But we still at least need to have 1% designated the ACTI. And if you remember a few slides before, I indicated that's not going to cover our normal cost of doing business if we just go with 1%. If you were to ask me, I'd make the recommendation no lower than 3.5%, because I think we can come down off 4.2, but I don't think we should go lower than 3.5%. That would be my recommendation. Obviously, our superintendent or assistant superintendent could weigh in, but at least we're looking at, there was a few years that we had no tax increase that we probably should be building up, especially as we did contract negotiations, because now we don't have those necessary funds for the actual increases to occur. And the runaway train in the room is special education. We are providing more services. We are sending more kids out. We are evaluating more. Our special education enrollment has increased exponentially, and our demand for services has increased as well. So there is no movement really around special education because we have to provide that level of service. There's no opportunity to change the budget in terms of special education. And even if we do not have enough in the budget for that, it's going to come at a cost later on where it's going to roll into use of fund balance, and of course then you won't have the fund balance to move forward. So where we go from there, we're going to need some more final decisions on the budget. What does the board want to see? What is the board comfortable with in terms of capital projects? Do you want to look at fund balance? So we will need to hear from you as what the level of comfortability is, because as we head towards the final, our next meeting, which is the public hearing, and then we have one more meeting, which is open discussion. Really, these things will need to be ironed out between those two meetings because we're set for final adoption on June 1st. And like to have those decisions talked and discussed and what you're comfortable with before we move into that meeting, because that's when we're setting the millage, the resolutions, all that closes out the budget, and we would like to have final documents prepared for that evening's activity and action to occur. So 2 really meetings moving forward. It's a lot of information to share, but I was hopeful that at least to give you the options, at least you know where. Now, You may not like those options. You may want to say, well, what about this? What about that? The purpose of the budget is not to address classroom changes, period, to keep classroom operations as intact as possible. So if there are other areas of the budget that you would like to see changed, please let me know. I will provide those numbers. I'm not saying it's going to be received, warmly or nicely. You may say, go back to the administration, cut a certain percent. Your overall budget changes, the percent allocation that the board has the wherewithal to change is less than 3%. So 3% of an $83 million budget is not a lot of funds to address. It would cause a lot of deferment of items, and then, of course, it would be what that deferment looks like for the moving forward. But if there's anything that I can provide you to help for your future discussions and decisions, please let me know. Otherwise, I'm open for questions.
Thanks, Belinda. Lots of information. Can you reiterate again for me, just so that this can help us moving into our next meeting, bringing our ideas to the table to discuss that before the 18th full budget review? You just ended with saying that of the topics of things that you would like our input on, right, and our discussion on, that one is what we are comfortable with regarding the use of capital reserves funds, and then you said something else as well, but I'm processing a lot of what you said, and I forget the second one.
Use of the capital funds.
Options.
What the capital plan will look like for next year. If there's going to be a reduction there in terms of what is to be done for next year's planning phase. If you want to, and again, if you want to keep the $1 million, then the decision needs to be made to use the $1.2 million to help offset the budget and/or a tax increase to address it.
Okay. I know.
And again, thank you. Mr. Dickerson pointed out something. There's no fund balance available to help offset the deficit.
Right, because of the 6%.
Correct.
Yeah, thank you. To the rest of the board, I know we'll have some questions here tonight, but what I will do after tonight, before the next May meeting, is just send those things she just said so that you can kind of think about it and process questions for it. That way we can have a more robust conversation on the 4th, and then documents can be better prepared for the 18th. At least in terms of that item. I have one quick question, and then I'll open to others. Earlier on in one of the first slides, I think you had said there were some changes from the last presentation to now that resulted, if I'm correct, in an increase in $330,000 in the budget. And I remember the slide of what those things were, so thank you for pointing those out. I guess my question is, when you then showed the next slide in terms of balancing that budget with the 1% and the 3.5 and the 4.5, showing the unreconciled gap, was there I think there was an increase in something. Was the increase coming in the assigned funds used from the capital project? That looks like a bigger number than before.
Yes, it was. So we did not utilize the assigned funds from capital projects before. So while our budget was increasing $337,000, we took a look at using some of those funds to help offset the capital projects.
So that would be what it could look like in terms of closing some of that gap if we were comfortable using a larger amount of the capital plan funds.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Mm-hmm. Questions for Belinda? Yeah, you can start with one, and then we'll kind of pass it around.
So first of all, you're doing the differential between the Act 1 and the actual tax increase to come up with the numbers that were left on the table, so to speak.
Correct.
So did you do it with the actual annual increase we actually had on each budget for those years since 2018, which was less than the index? And that between what we actually increased taxes to find an actual number that we left on the table. Because the Act is a perception of a number, but if you computed actually what the increase was annually of your budget, then you could have an actual number for everybody to understand what was left on the table.
So since 22-23, that 22 million was just since that time period. Now, I would have to go back, Act
Right, but
1
that's
index.
That's based on Act 1.
Right, well, that is our maximum, so we
Right, but-
couldn't go before that.
Yeah,
above
but you
that.
actually had a number of what the budget actually increased, which was probably less than Act 1.
That information is going to be a little bit harder to dictate down, because Act 1 came into place in 16-17, and that was our max.
Right.
So to go back in time to say, here was the additional revenue from real estate tax increases, growth and property, that's going to be a little bit harder to do and to get down exactly as to each and every year that occurred, to find that gap between the Act 1 index. So I'm using the Act 1 index as my top floor, right? Like I wouldn't, our district would not be able to maximize any other option of a tax increase other than the Act 1 index. And then the growth itself is its natural growth. Like I couldn't have compared the growth to Act 1 index.
Right, but basically everything is dictated on expenses. That's not a natural growth, that's just what it is. So my question is, what did our expenses actually go up every year prior to the year previous to figure out what actually percentage it went up versus what we actually increased our taxes? That's just the gap that I'm looking for. Number 2, capital improvements. So we have a 5-year capital improvement plan. So basically, if this was run technically as a business from profit and loss, you would curtail all capital improvements that were totally non-essential and just freeze them right now. Secondly, what I anticipate probably is needed is a 5-year plan of taxation, not a 1-year plan. And I think that's part of the problem, is if you don't do a 5-year plan and anticipate what it's going to take to get you to the next 5 years, all you're going to do is rob Peter to pay Paul forever. And that's what we're doing. We're robbing from PSERS, which is retirement money, correct?
PSERS is retirement.
So
yep.
is that a defined benefit package? How do you take it out of a PSERS if it's a defined benefit package?
So a few years ago, I'll just explain. So a few years ago, we had additional assigned money in fund balance. PSERS came out and said we're going from 15% to 30% over a period of years. So the board at that time took an amount of money and committed those funds with the plan to draw down those funds as the PSERS rate climbs to 30%.
Okay.
So that's exactly what we do with that fund.
But is that, if you keep borrowing from that, you're not borrowing from it, you're taking it, is that eventually going to evaporate?
Yes.
Okay, so there's
Yep.
that problem.
Mm-hmm.
As far as your unassigned balance, it's really not an unassigned balance, because if it's unassigned, you can use it. So since basically it's a liquidity ratio that you need for bond rating.
It is, but it's also used for the summer months of making payment on our bills.
But you replenish it to that level once
the tax
revenue
bills
starts
come
coming in
Mhm.
after July 1st.
Mhm.
Yeah, but it's basically a ratio that you need to keep for bond rating for Standards and Poor and whoever.
Dave, I'm going to just to make sure that we have time for other
I
questions as
understand.
well, I'm going to ask you to wrap up the first/handful of first questions, and then
Okay.
we'll come back.
So here's my analogy, and what I am going to charge with the board is that we need more than just come here May 4th at that meeting to understand what you're going to do. So we need administrative sessions prior to that, and probably not 1 hour, but probably 2 hours. Because you're continuing just to move it over, move it over, move it over. And unless you do an extended period study of figuring out where you're going to need to be in 5 years, you're just going to keep borrowing it from everything, and eventually you're going to have nothing. So that's number one. Number two, I would freeze all capital projects. They're totally non-essential for a year to figure out where you are with those. My favorite pet peeve is the team room. That is a waste of money that could be used for something else educationally. Secondly is the administrative building that wants to be built here. You may be able to modify that and save half of that cost. That could go to something else for reserve, for whatever. You've got to freeze your capital projects. You're not going to be able to pay for them because all you're doing is robbing from them. And it's never coming back until you figure out a 5-year plan to figure out where you're headed.
coming up in the next, I'll let Belinda speak to part of that, and then we can get some other people's questions, because I know that they are here. The capital project 5-year plan is something that is coming back up on our next meeting per some requests from the board. So we can definitely begin to talk about that part of it. In terms of a 5-year tax plan, I'm not
Strategic plan for budgetary.
sure. We can look into what that might look like. I'm not sure that that would look exactly the way that you would like to see, just based off of the way that our budget office has to, or business office rather, has to manage things throughout that process. I'm going to be honest and say I don't know how that works, but I think we can talk about it and find out if that's even possible. A conversation about it is important, whether or not we have a formal plan for it. It's always a part of our duty every year to talk about that. That's part of this process right now. Do you want to address one more thing, and then we can get some other questions?
Yeah, as to the 5-year taxation plan, we can propose a 5-year plan, a projected 5-year plan, but adoption will never be able to be materialized simply because it is not mandated and not availability through the Department of Education. So they require an annual approval. But a proposed 5-year plan,
A guideline.
yes, easily can be done. Again, knowing that some things will change, contracts come up, contracts need renewed, but a 5-year guide to guide you is still going to be a process. It can be done. It is a more lengthier process, so it's not something that can be done from meeting to meeting, but it can be available with the software that we have and we use. And as for the team room and the admin building, I just want to remind, we have, while I understand what you're saying about deferring it, we have capital bond funds that need to be used. And that is what it's addressing, those two areas. Whether or not we decide to take further action on the team room, they are out for bid right now. So when those bids come back, and if they're not favorable, of course, then there's obviously a different decision that needs to be made. Anyways, it needs to be a decision made on the team room. And as for the admin building, likewise, future decisions will need to be made on that. But we do have bond money remaining that we need, and we plan to spend those projects down. I cannot sit on those funds and not, I cannot defer those and sit on those funds. That is not one of the things that the IRS likes you to do, is borrow money and sit on it earning interest. Because that's where arbitrage comes into play.
Okay.
Arbitrage is a good thing because we're earning, our ratings are so low, 1.5% on the one and 3.25% on the other. And the market where it's at right now, I would never refinance them. I would never put them back out to market because it would be not a great situation. But the fact that we are earning interest on one of them, our goal is we borrowed the funds to do the projects. The projects may have changed along the way, but we have not expensed everything. And that meter keeps running on all those dollars and what arbitrage calculation is. So if you're going to ask me, I would say, let's get these projects done and spend those funds down. And neither one of those have anything to do with the general fund.
Yeah, Belinda, we're gonna move on. Thank you. We have heard you explain this at least 5 times in the last 2 months. So I'm gonna move on from those 2 items and circle back to the presentation from this evening. The capital project fund and plan, 5-year plan, is something that we will be talking about next meeting. It is on the soon-to-be-made agenda. And as for the rest of this presentation, like I said, I will email those things that we are going to have a robust discussion about. You're going to need to come prepared with your thoughts and ideas about it in terms of what you would feel comfortable with. So more questions are always a good thing. Dave is good about asking questions. Is there anyone else that would like to ask a question about tonight's presentation?
Go ahead, Kath.
Go ahead.
Yeah, hi, thank you, I would. Dave, to your point about freezing capital improvements, and Belinda, to your point, which, yes, thank you, you have explained to us arbitrage. But I would be curious to know, maybe, and in the next meeting, when we're talking about the capital improvement fund, which will cost us less, forfeiting the existing bonds or going to arbitrage versus the actual costs we'll incur with those two projects. If you could give that to us, that I think could be really useful. So as we look at the presentation, I want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly. There's been essentially a zero tax increase for GASD operations in the last four of 6 years. Is that right? So if we look at the past 6 years, 4 of those years has essentially had a 0% increase for the school district operations.
That's correct.
Would you say we're in a structural deficit?
I will say that the purpose of spending down the unassigned fund balance has now met its time. Structural deficit, when we need to add funds to the 6% unassigned fund balance, then I would say yes.
I have a couple of other questions, but I'll let some other people ask first.
Yeah. Thanks, Kathleen. Belinda, first of all, thank you for a very comprehensive presentation tonight. Very helpful. And I know good business managers plan for the worst, hope for the best. When it comes to the federal and state funding, are you assuming level funding, or are you assuming a little bit of an increase at all?
Assuming level funding, current year funding.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Which I think is a pretty good move. I know I've said this 100 times before. I'll say it again. And those 4 years where we didn't do anything, we're now paying Piper. We're going to, you pay it now or pay it later. Small incremental increases. Just the contractual obligations alone and our mandates. We're living in a fantasy world if we think that's just going to magically appear and go away without us approving small incremental increases along the way. I'm pretty sure I'm preaching to the choir on that. I agree with, I really like Mr. Seitz's questions, and I agree with a lot of what he's saying. The thing I will take difference with a little bit is operating like a business, because we educate everybody, regardless of their needs in special education. And some of our students in Adams County, not just Gettysburg, across the whole nation, that they have a high degree of need, and they need one-on-one assistance and things like that. And I think that separates us from operating like a business. We're going to educate everybody. We're mandated to educate everybody. Belinda, also, for our future meeting, I'd be interested how much of this increase from last year to this year is due to salaries and benefits. I'm guessing that's the major part of what we're dealing with. I could be wrong about that.
So to answer your question on salaries, it's 3.95% increase, and benefits is a 6% increase in premiums.
Got you. That's all I have for now, except for with the 3.5 that you are recommending, does that get us anywhere close to our policy of 6% of a fund balance?
Yes, there is use of assigned funds,
Right.
and we're only looking for about $22,000. So we could easily use more assigned funds and reduce some of the capital projects amount to get us to 3.5%.
Thank you.
Donna, go ahead.
I do have a quick question. So the 300s is our purchase services, correct? Is that mostly IU?
Mostly IU services, as well as other outplaced services that the IU is not providing for us.
So that's, okay, so they've decreased, but the cost is increasing.
Correct. So the cost of services of IU has changed, where we are borrowing more of the cost using outside placement services or providing our own classroom for services and needs.
So the increase isn't to the IU? It's
not to the
services.
IU.
Okay.
There will remain services that we need to still do with the IU simply because of the numbers. Some of the areas that the IU will help do, for example, will be occupational therapy or speech, music therapy, things of such specific nature that we are not providing on our currently on our list. But we are increasing outside placement like News Story and, River Rock and News Story in-house as well as out placement. So a lot of our services have increased simply because the need of special education has increased.
Ryan, do you have a question?
I have a question, yep. And it might almost be a question for Dave, because what I'm wondering about is new revenue within a 5-year projection. If there is any reading of the tea leaves we have within the real estate market, and you see developments all over, that potentially will be bringing in money that will make up for some of the shortfall. Our expenditures are going up significantly year to year, and we're not keeping up with that, but we are doing better than the tax increases would suggest because of increased numbers of homes and increased value of those homes. So do we ever get those numbers? Are there any projections that we get from the real estate market about what we can anticipate for revenue next year if we keep the same millage, or the year after that, or a 5-year plan?
Sure. We receive annual updates from the county assessment office as to or some of the areas that have permits in place. We receive one number, and while we're planning all along what that looks like, those numbers get updated regularly, so we have to look at what was our previous number, what number has changed, and what do we feel is a true comfort level of what actually is going to transpire. So, the county may say, well, 100% of these homes are coming in at whatever location. The reality of that hitting July 1st and billable July 1st is not 100%. So we may look at it and say, well, maybe 75% could be billable. That's what we account for in the budget. So it is a scenario that we look for outside service, the county, to help us with, simply because we're not in tune to receiving that information directly from the municipalities.
And if I could just follow through, because it's on the same vein, our expenditures have been going up, though, much more rapidly, and this is for a variety of reasons, not just special education, including commitments to PSERS or salaries or changes in insurance. Do we have any way to project what we're going to be looking at in for instance, a 5-year plan for where, beyond just drawing a line on a graph?
Yeah, outside of special ed, I could say probably it's a range of anywhere from 3.25% to 3.5% of other cost. That's an average. So we can look back across the history, find out what the average is, absent special ed, and project that for 5 years. So the projection of expenditures is not a problem. It's the projection of the revenue that could potentially be the, while it's a projection, it's still an open-ended area, simply because we're not quite sure when these new parcels will come in place. I will state this for the record. I know representatives from Amberbrook came and was concerned about the tax increases. Well, honestly, thank goodness Amberbrook came into play, simply because that has been help funding the increases without us raising taxes to the general population. So the growth that is experiencing from these developments has really truly been our wonderful opportunity to not address tax increases over the years, simply because we've had natural growth in terms of real estate coming into Gettysburg.
Kathleen, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Al, that was a very good question about new positions that are being suggested. I'd like to follow up on that with a couple of questions for clarity. We're looking at a possible addition of 5 positions, though 2 of them, the social workers, are really replacing the existing family navigators. And I recall in an earlier meeting being told that our expense of 2 social workers on staff will be less than our expense for 2 family navigators who are contracted.
That's correct.
Is that correct? Okay. If we look at 2 supervisors of special education, are 2 required? Can we have 1 at this point and then look to having 2 in a future budget?
It's a very good question to ask, but I have to defer to the comprehensive plan, simply because the plan was built and approved by the department on just the 2. it may have been a longer range plan, but because the services are changing from IU to us, it's now advanced itself a year, pretty much.
Correct. The comprehensive plan, when was board approved, the end goal at the end of the 3 years, which would have been the 27-28 school year, would have been that we have brought back the majority of, if not all of the special ed classes that the IU is running, and added an additional supervisor to help facilitate that, because it's a lot more just for one person with all these classes we brought back. We actually had it spaced out where, we had an original plan of which classes we were bringing back each of those 3 years, but because the IU has kind of forced our hand with some classes over others, we had to change all of that and bring more back quicker, which is necessitating a second supervisor at this point.
We currently have one supervisor.
We currently have one for the whole district, and then we're going to add an additional one that will help us to have one that will focus on elementary and one that will focus on secondary.
So again, something I would suggest, maybe can we take a look at that? Is this something we can look to do in the future? It's a question I'd like you to address. And then when we look at the technology department classified position, how is that work currently being done?
There's currently 4 individuals in the technology department. From my understanding, about 5 years ago, there were 8 positions in the technology department, to where a lot of those services were divvied up and reduced due to either retirements or folks transitioning to another role. So the position wasn't necessarily placed. We've come to a time and a place where the technology department is and I'm not saying struggling hard, but they are trying to keep up and maintain the level, as well as there's constant new modernization that needs to occur to address cyber issues we're having. So the needs have changed in terms of the cyber world, that this additional person would help with, mostly with the help desk, whereas the others maybe not be able to address at a particular point in time. This has been on their radar for a couple of years. We've put them off for a couple of years. And so this is one of the reasons it's come up this year, because we contemplated.
Yeah, so I hear that. So I'm hearing you say we used to have 8 employees in that department. We're now at 4.
Yes.
And with new technological demands, we're looking at adding a position.
Yes.
Because it is about $1.4 million for these 5 positions that we're looking to add. So I think it's worth asking the questions. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions? Okay. Moving into our May 4th meeting, that is our public hearing meeting, part of the budget review, and a big discussion day for us, coming in with kind of talking about what we would feel comfortable doing in all of these topics in terms of where the focus of getting money would come from, I guess is the vague way of saying that. I can send more of those details that we just discussed now, if you're a person like me that likes to see a visual there to kind of think through, and come with your thoughts and questions to that May 4th meeting, and we can bring more of those board kind of consensus ideas to Belinda to kind of rework and have ready for the May 18th discussion. That way we have 2, when I'm looking at that, then I see we have a meeting to discuss many of those decisions that we're making as a team, and how it would impact it, looking at it, that meeting right before we actually get to approve it. It gives us a couple of different meetings to make adjustments that fit what we want to see happen. Does that sound like a plan, Belinda? Mm-hmm. I am hearing that you're asking for more from us, so we'll plan to bring that next meeting.
And if there's more information you need from me to help make those decisions, feel free to reach out.
Okay. Thank you. We are moving on to citizens' participation. Dr. Moyer.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for your patience. We do have one person who has asked to address the board, and that would be Kenneth Calabrese. Kenneth, I'm guessing your ears perked up when you heard Amblebrook up here by Belinda, huh?
Yes, I think she knew I was back here, and as as a person that's paying taxes who will never benefit, I know how many children I have. None of them are going to the Gettysburg Area School District, so I'm one of those ones that's paying in. So I appreciate the fact, number one, Belinda's done a great job. She's been a warrior. I think she's provided great information. I've certainly gained a lot of information. And it's clear that the budget's got to go up. So we're past the hold the line, figure some way not to have the budget go up. So that's good news. I would suggest that the low end of your spectrum is 2.8%. Why do I say that? Lots of people on fixed income. What was the Social Security cost of living increase for this year? 2.8%. So it's not an arbitrary number. It's like, okay, realizing that a lot of our citizens are on fixed income and that number is growing, just as a strategy to say what we're going to try to do is minimize the tax increase to that which is the same as Social Security. And I think that also plays into your, okay, where were we 5 years ago? Where are we today? Let's, rather than provide people with numbers metrics they don't understand, just say this is the Social Security increases over the last 5 years. What is that? And then how has our budget gone up? And clearly it's going to be way below it. People can understand Social Security. People on fixed incomes. That you can probably sell. The other thing is I think you all should talk about the mills, because that's what I pay. You know, if the budget goes up X, it's how it impacts me. So it's how the mills go up each year. So what's actually happening because of Amblebrook, okay, is your tax base is going up. So there's actually people that are seeing a negative increase in their taxes because the more expensive houses are coming in, which reflects today's prices, and people that bought a house in 2010 whose assessment is not going up, guess what? Their taxes are going down, minimally, but they're going down, not increasing. So I would suggest that. I think a framework, not only with the capital investments, but with the operational investments, if you said, this is what we can do with a 2.8% increase in the mills, which translates to some higher number. I don't know what that would be in the budget. Another, maybe it's 3%. Okay, if we did that, what don't we do? Okay, and then jump it up to your 3.5, you're already done those calculations. These are the things we could do. And then, if we went to 4.2, we can either do everything. And part of this would be, taking some of the reserve money. For the reserves, if you said, okay, an unexpected cost was special education, we'll dip into the reserves to the extent that this requirement has been placed on us, so we'll dig into that extent. But otherwise, we're going to live with our income. Now, as far as running like a business, okay, let's do it this way. Run it like your home budget, okay? How much, what kind of car am I going to buy? What kind of house am I going to buy? What am I going to eat, okay? Just do it like a home budget. I got so many dollars. Nobody's going to give me money to spend. So the last thing I would say is you might want to dry run your presentation to the population and say, how can I express this? And maybe it's not even somebody from the board, but somebody else independently that says, I'm an independent person. I'm coming in here. I'm presenting what I think are the major aspects of the budget. I think I've come to these meetings for the last 6 months. The part I really enjoyed is the kids talking and the teachers talking, okay? And I really miss that. It's like, what happened here? So it was wonderful hearing tonight. If I were to make a presentation, I would start with, what the proposed budget is, but it would explain what you're getting for your money. Anything is too expensive. Car's too expensive, house too expensive. What value am I getting? And actually, I just replay Mr. Lusk's presentation and say, this is what you're getting for your dollar. And that's outstanding. So if you kind of lead in by, this is the value you're getting, and then this is what have been the Social Security increases, this is how you can say it, how we've held the line. Okay, so if we went up every year by Social Security, we'd be up here, we're down here, Now, unfortunately, we've kind of dug a hole, And it's going to take us 5 years or maybe 10 years to dig out from that hole. And at some point, if we go up, by a certain amount every year, we're going to actually start contributing to the reserves. But, it's going to be a couple of lean years. And I think if you have a framework that says we're going to spend on the most essential stuff, we're going to defer stuff that's not as essential, whether or not it's operational or capital, and tell people we're going to go through an austerity process because of this, and it's going to take us some time to fix it, that you basically, pretend you're on the other side listening to it. What do you think is a convincing argument to make to people to pay it? I think if you see the value, people are going to be less critical if they see, the outstanding quality of what comes out of Gettysburg Area School District. Thank you for your time.
Kenneth, thank you, and thank you for your insight.
Okay, we are moving on to routine approvals. I'm looking for a motion to vote on 5.1, the agenda, 5.2, financial report, 5.3, human resources recommendations.
Can we pull out 5.2?
Sure. Hearing separating 5.2. Let me do them all separately. Can I get a motion for 5.1, the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Dave?
Yes.
Justine?
Yes.
Donna?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Can I get a motion for 5.2, the financial report?
That's the one I want to pull out.
Yep, it is pulled out. Can I get a motion for the financial report?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions?
Yes.
Go ahead, Dave.
Belinda, I sent you a list of the questions, which I think you were copied also, Al and Alice and Jeffrey. Just trying to get some clarification of exactly what the money is spent for and to whom and for the reasons.
All the items on the list are directly related to special education tuition and services. So these are our students that are going to locations to receive their education and services that are not provided in district, except for Levi Cromwell Environmental, which is a chemical inventory for the district underneath the right to know law. And then Dolphin Electric is the PCCD cameras, security cameras, that is a part of the PDE Security Safety Grant.
Okay, so go ahead.
All the other items, Catholic Charities, CCIU, Huffman Homes, Phoenix Counseling, Special Education, Upper Adams Tuition, Yellow Breeches Tuition, Chester County Tuition, Effective School Solutions, was Clinical Services, and then News Story are all tuition-related servicing our students at those facilities.
Also Upper Adams?
Yes, we have a student at Upper Adams that we pay tuition for.
Okay. Okay. Are these reoccurring every month?
These could change regularly. It just depends upon the enrollment of our students. So Upper Adams could change tomorrow. It just depends. Classroom counts could change. It could be an all-year event. Whatever services are needed is they try to find a location to service them.
Okay. And we can't in the future do any of this in-house? That's for the administration. At a more scale of economy?
To say that in the future we absolutely can't, I would say that's not a question that we can answer now, but we don't. There's services that we don't provide currently,
right,
or have space in our classrooms currently. Okay. But there are students, and when they need to be educated, so we have to find places for them to go. That doesn't mean, as Belinda said, the classroom counts change regularly. If we have students that come out of those places and we have someone at Adams County, we can bring them back to have them here. But at the moment, we don't have the space.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
I had a question.
Go ahead, Justine.
I saw the email. And Belinda, I had a question from page 10, the rev track fees. Is that the 4.48% is that, or what does that number represent? The $3,034?
That's the fee that we used to pay, that we need to pay RevTrak for collection of fees. Whether it be food service, whether it be prom tickets or the drama event, that is a fee that we pay for to have that collection availability.
And then there was one on, it said road salt for the 25-26 season, but then in the description, it was an engineering fee for a stormwater permit. That was on page 1.
Without having Mr. Reynolds here, I think the stormwater permit was probably associated with, I'm trying to think which project that is for.
I just didn't because it said, I guess the category, or whatever it was titled was road salt for 25-26 season, 36 tons, and then the description, engineer fee to close stormwater permit. Didn't understand that.
So we had to close the stormwater permit at Cumberland Township from the old middle school. We have a escrow account with Cumberland Township that until our old project was closed down and everything was satisfied with the demands made by the township in particular, there were funds held in escrow. And once that process was closed out, we asked for release of those funds. It's $104,000. Now, it may say road salt simply because we may have purchased road salt from that organization. But
So the 104,000 is part of the, or the 100, what did you say?
We have $104,000 in an account that is held in pretty much a trust account by the township. They will not release it until all the permits have been satisfied and deemed acceptable. So during the old closeout of the middle school, stormwater management of I think it was the curbs over there, were in question as to who was going to maintain them moving forward. So through the whole plan design and architecturals and designers, it was a long process. And now since we've closed out the previous permits and moved forward from that project, which is the older project at the middle school, this stormwater management issue was still in the mix. And with the closeout, we are now able to proactively have the township vote on the release of those funds. So we needed the architecture involved in this process to process this out through.
So it's just a typo in the description?
The description, sometimes the descriptions are an automatic from what was previously paid. So it's not necessarily overwritten in per se. The description may be in the generalization of that vendor. Not necessarily a description for each and every event is entered in each and every time.
Yeah. Thanks, Justine. Any other questions on 5.2? Okay, hearing none, take it to a vote. Justine?
Yes.
Donna?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Dave? And I vote yes. Moving on to 5.3, Human Resources Recommendations, looking for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? All right, hearing none, take it to a vote. Donna?
Yes.
Al?
Abstain.
Ryan?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Dave? Justine?
Yes.
And I vote yes. All right, we're moving on to items for board action. I'm looking to take, let's go 6.1 to 6.5. These are all of the policies and ACTI General Fund operating budget that we discussed at the last board meeting, the first one in April. Looking for 6.1 to 6.5.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion or questions on those?
I
Go
I
ahead,
have a couple
Kathleen.
of questions. Thank you. I'm just curious, 6.2 adult education. Just curious, does ACTI provide a similar opportunity?
I do not believe so. Sean, the ACTI director, is here. If you have questions about ACTI, he can answer them.
Surprise, you didn't expect this? Sean, 6.2 is adult education, and it's about the district providing adult education. And I'm curious to know, does ACTI provide something similar?
At this point, we do not provide any adult education classes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments on 6.1 to 6.5? Yep, go ahead, Kathleen.
Sean, come on back. All right. This is probably more of what you would have expected. So on the budget, I'm just curious, computer networking and diesel technology, or sometimes called diesel mechanics. I just want to confirm that those total expenses are down because of retiring teachers in those two sectors.
That's correct. The computer networking teacher retired on December 31st of 2025, so we have a new teacher on board. Young gentleman, so less experience, less salary. Our salary is largely based on experience in the work, in the career field. Our diesel technology teacher, Mr. Penton, is retiring at the end of this school year. So next school year, we expect the same kind of situation, as slightly lower salary for that position.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sean, while I got you here, Tim's not here, our liaison that's on the JOC.
Right.
There's a really good rumor going around that we may be close to a land acquisition. Or are you allowed to speak to that at all, or is that or we can't speak to that right now?
That's all been executive session discussion.
Okay.
We'll say we are close to making a decision, and you'll, of course, hear more about that as we.
Very exciting.
Yep,
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Sean. Any other questions on 6.1 to 6.5? Hearing none, we will vote. Al?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Justine?
Yes.
Donna?
Yes.
And I vote yes. 6.6, the approval of proposed final budget 26-27. Can I get a motion for it?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. And this is a reminder per Belinda's presentation this evening that this is to adopt a proposed final budget with a projected tax increase of 4.2% and permission to advertise. This is not the final adoption. This just allows for us to prepare for all of those possible outcomes, and does not mean that we are choosing to raise the tax increase to 4.2% at this time. Any other discussion or questions on that particular item? Correct. We have, the motion is on the table. I thought we just motioned to 6.5. No, this is 6.6.
6.6.
Well, forgive me, I thought the first motion was for 6.1 to 6.5, so forgive me, it included 6.6.
No, we did just move for that.
Second motion. It's been moved and seconded.
Thank you.
Don't worry.
Long night, folks.
We're on the end of hour 2, so that is okay.
It's
Yes,
getting
we
late.
we did make a motion and second it. I'm just reminding ourselves as well as the public of the details of that item. Any other comments or questions?
I just wonder, is it confusing for people to vote yes on this when, like, I don't have the stomach for a 4.2 increase, and we've had the conversation tonight, and we know that what's really being recommended at this point by the administration is 3.5. Is it confusing to put forward an approval for this motion at 4.2 when at least one person could not vote yes for a 4.2 in the end.
So I'll start by asking a question that we haven't necessarily talked about yet. We've seen all the charts of the varied projected tax, the Act 1 indexes from the last however many years, all the way back to 2018. And in the process of budget approval and all the months we use to figure this out, the timeline that is given to us by the state, typically we have a proposed final budget approval. I guess my question is, how does that stack up against the Act 1 index in the past, right? Like when we're looking at those different years, the proposed final budget that we vote on this night hasn't always been the index, but sometimes I imagine it has. I guess I'm just wondering how often.
We have historically tried to put the Act 1 index as the proposed final, as the worst possible situation.
Just to allow for whatever changes come between now and just thinking back to last meeting to today, we had $330,000 unaccounted for dollars, right, that changed. So I think it's a good thing if we know kind of where we're currently planning to go and currently thinking and trying not to reach the index. But if we don't put it, my understanding is that if we don't vote that through this evening, then that is limiting further what we're able to do with whatever changes may come our way in the next couple of months.
Yeah, this is clearly a process just to have it on display for 30 days.
And I would just say, I agree with Mrs. Pratt. I think it is a little bit confusing to the general public. It's probably a little bit confusing to the Gettysburg Times, who could sometimes could really get a perception out there that, we're going worst case scenario. I hope that doesn't happen. But I think Belinda did a great job of explaining that this is preliminary, that a lot can happen between now and the next month or so, and that she's not recommending this herself. It's a procedural type of thing. So I think we'll be okay.
So I feel the same as Kathleen as well. And my question is, if the majority were to vote no, what are the limitations at that point?
You need to have 30 days between the time that you vote approve proposed final to the final. So we would have to have a special meeting for you to vote on approving a proposed final.
And in that special meeting, what happens in that?
You would take action on the proposed final, so it's available for 30 days. So really, it's a timeline underneath Act 1 index. You have to have it on display for 30 days. If our timeline is that we're adopting a budget by June 1st, I got to back that timeline up by 30 days to have an approval. So this evening, I cannot wait till May, first meeting in May or second meeting in May, to have 30 days between that and June 1st. There's not enough time. So that's why it's on for this evening, so I know I have more than 30 days for the approval of the proposed final.
You literally have to print it out and set it here.
Yeah. Yes, it is on the table back here. It is. And then we'll make it available on the website as well as on the table in the vestibule out here.
So I'll circle back to what Al said, because I like the way that you phrased that in the sense that it may be confusing, but it is kind of a procedural hoop to go through. And the way I see it as well is taking action on this tonight is not making a decision. It is buying us time to make an informed decision, right? We still have two more meetings in May to narrow out those details and decide what is in the best interest of the school district and community. So with that being said,
do you think we're going to have any admin to go over this during the next two meetings? Admin time to go over the budget?
You mean like administrative sessions prior to the meeting?
Yep.
That's up to the board.
We could talk about it, Dave. I think that should be something that happens after the May 4th meeting, if so. Right? Because the May 4th meeting is our time that we get to sit and discuss this. And I, for one, am still processing my own thoughts about what we're doing. I'll send that in an email. If we decide something otherwise, we can do that. But we still have
It'd be great
a solid.
It'd be great if the board could decide that.
And it would have to be public as well.
Correct. Yeah, correct. As it currently stands, we still have, in the way I'm looking at it, at least somewhere between 4 to 6 more hours of talking about this. So I feel comfortable going to the May 4th meeting and figuring it out from there. When I send out the things for people to think about that we've talked about tonight, to just have it in writing. If we feel otherwise, then we can make that decision and communicate it. Okay. I'm not going to make that decision right now at 9:08 with you guys. No, that's what I'm saying. I think that this is an important thing that people can process, not at 9:08 at night. If we would like to have an administrative session before the next meeting, we'll go through the same process we did the last time where we can then communicate it to the public. We have enough time to do that, right? If we don't make that decision right now?
We do.
Okay, then we'll plan to do that with a little bit more of a fresh brain. That's what I would like to do. So I think that's probably fine. Go ahead, Kathleen.
So may I make a suggestion for that May 4th meeting? I think that's a meeting that we would typically bring forward a lot of new policies to have a conversation about.
I was thinking the same thing.
I would like to suggest we do not do that unless the policy is time sensitive. I think we need to devote as much time as possible, May 4th and May 18th, over this budget, because again, as we looked at the last 6 years, a 4.2% ask is, or not even an ask, but the possibility is a little unprecedented. And I think that we need to really be focused on this.
There are the policy review that we're in the middle of right now. We can certainly put that on hold until the budget process is complete. That's easy to do.
Good suggestion.
Any other comments or questions on 6.6? Okay, we will take a vote. Al?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Justine?
Yes.
Donna?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Moving on to our program reports. Dr. Matzner.
Yes, in the interest of time, because it is after 9, I just have a couple quick shout outs that I want to mention. First to Giant and every customer who went to Giant and rounded up. We were able to receive a donation from Giant in an effort to support childhood hunger in the amount of $5,451.70. So I want to again thank Giant and everyone who shops at Giant and rounded up at the register to help us out. Second shout out is for Jen Weigel. Jen is our district social worker and was recognized with the New Seed Innovator Award for her incredible work supporting student wellness at the Healthy Adams County 30th anniversary celebration on Friday. From connecting families to community resources to launching the peer mentor group called Hope Squad at the high school, Jen has done a fantastic job, and we're proud of her and the recognition that she so rightly deserves. So congratulations to Jen Weigel.
Good evening. Testing started at our 3 elementary schools today. First day of ELA for 3, 4, and 5. And middle school will begin on Wednesday. Both levels will continue with math and science next week. Good luck to all of our test takers and our staff. Shout out to our food service department. Last Wednesday, we had a Warrior Wellness Night at the high school. A great opportunity to showcase our food service staff, their abilities, healthy food habits for families, as well as our partnerships with Giant Food and Kegel's Foods. On a budgetary note, our federal funding adjustment was released last Wednesday, which initially showed an increase of $1,500. However, that was readjusted again, I guess, which is typical, I guess, for this typical federal funding period here, and it showed a decrease for $66,000 in our Title I funds. Title II through 4 remained the same, so we will revisit our consolidated application this week and make some necessary adjustments.
Thank you both for those updates. Go ahead, Kathleen.
I know it's late at night, but wait, I want to make sure I understood that. So there's a federal reduction of $66,000 that...
Our Title I funding was it was allocated late this year of approximately $836,000, and then we got a funding adjustment down to $770, just in Title I.
So just to follow up from that, we're going to have a budgetary change simply because the allocation will need to change on revenue down by $76,000.
Yes, thank you, federal government. Okay, great. I think it's time to move to adjourn, and we will come back and do this again. Our next meeting is on Monday, May 4th, in the boardroom. For those of you that hung around for all of this, thank you for joining us. Motion. Somebody needs to make the motion. Thank you.